Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Bemidbar, first Torah portion of the book of Numbers. We meet the tribes of Israel. God, in His love for Israel, counts them. We have a census. We meet with the heads of all the tribes. We learn about their encampments in the desert. And a little further on, in chapter 3, we read about the appointment of the Levites. Verse number 5 of chapter 3, we read, HaShem spoke to Moses, saying, "Bring near the tribe of Levi, and have it stand before Aharon the Kohen, and they shall serve him. They shall safeguard his charge and the charge of the entire assembly before the tent of meeting to perform the service of the tabernacle. And as the verse tells us, you shall present the Levites to Aaron and his sons. Presented are they to him from the children of Israel." So the Levites had their own appointment, their own mission in the hierarchy of the children of Israel. Theirs was a holy mission. Their task was to safeguard the things of holiness. And indeed, we read a little further on in verse number 11 that the Levites actually replace the firstborn. Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, "Behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel in place of every firstborn." So the Midrash Rabbah, commenting on this whole idea of the appointment of the Levites, takes the opportunity to reflect on the fact that just as the Levites amongst the children of Israel have their own appointment, their own assignment, their own spiritual task, so too really the goal of every person is to strive for righteousness, for every person to find their own place and to serve God in their own unique way and to somehow deserve the designation of tzaddik. And the Midrash actually takes this verse, it's a verse that we quoted where Hashem says, "Behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel." And regarding this verse, the Midrash relates it to a verse in Psalms 92. And there we read in Psalms 92, "A righteous man will flourish like a date palm. Like a cedar in the Lebanon, he will grow tall." And this is a very famous concept that a number of Midrashim relate to, including ours. The fact that a tzaddik, a righteous person, is compared to a tamar. Tzaddik katamar yifrach. The righteous person will blossom like a date palm. And there are various reasons for this comparison. The fact that the date palm gives fruits, and that it gives shade, and that its roots reach very deep, and it can get by with very little water, and it can grow in the desert. All sorts of reasons. But the interesting thing about this verse is that the tzaddik, the righteous person, is compared to two types of trees. So let's look at the second part of the verse. The verse reads, "Indeed, a righteous man will flourish like a date palm, like a cedar in the Lebanon, he will grow tall." But what is the connection between the tzaddik and the cedar? In fact, there are two different things altogether. The date palm has all of these, certain kind of noble details the Midrash points out about the fruit and the shade and the ability to survive with very little water and growing in a hostile environment. But the cedar, true, the cedars were used in the Holy Temple, but the cedar is a tree that is somewhat foreboding. It doesn't give any fruit. It doesn't have the same qualities of the date palm at all. So commenting on this and examining this whole concept, the holy Baal Shem Tov looks at this and says, what the Midrash is really telling us here. Because after all, the whole idea here is to realize that just as the Levites had their own designation, their own appointment, they were called to a special service of Hashem, so too every person is supposed to find his purpose in this world, is supposed to also strive for that special calling. And the Baal Shem Tov comments, a person can be a tzaddik, a person can really reach that level. There are two different types of tzaddikim. There are two ways to be righteous. There's the righteous that are compared in this verse here in Psalms 92, they're compared to a date palm. And that is the tzaddik who really is in touch with the world around him. He's part of society. His righteousness is not cloistered. It's not something that is insulated and that is, set apart for himself. He gives of himself. He gives his fruit, he gives his shade, and he goes the distance for other people. And then there's a type of tzaddik, there's the righteous person who's compared to a cedar. He's also exceedingly righteous in all of those matters that pertain between a person and his Creator. But unlike the date palm, he gives no fruit. And his righteousness is really somewhat selfish in that he's not really part of society. You would not be able to fault him on any level for the shining aspect of his personality. He's really done his best as possible to perfect himself, but he doesn't really allow from his level of righteousness to spill over, to influence, to illuminate anybody else. So he's like the cedar. And so even in the realm of what it means to be called a righteous person, there are degrees, there are levels, there are different things to strive for. There is the tzaddik, the righteous person, who's compared to the date palm, and he is righteous, and he's really, deserves that title, but he's so totally in the world, so totally connected to other people that others are able to gain from him and to grow from him. And there's the tzaddik, the righteous person, who is like the cedar. You wouldn't be able to fault him on anything, but he's totally for himself. So in hearing the call and in striving for the appointment and the assignment and finding our place and serving HaShem, we want to strive to be righteous, but we want to remember that a person is not isolated. A person can't be like the cedar. A person has to be connected to others and together to grow in the service of HaShem.